Hey, what's up, Matt?
Hello. Hi, Brian. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody watching. Brian Zimmerman here, Matt McCucci there. I am the executive editor of Jazz's Magazine. Matt McCucci is, of course, our online editor. And we are back for another episode of Crate Digging, a special episode of Crate Digging.
Very special episode. Yeah, I got chills.
Just thinking about it. Crate Digging is, of course, the show. We kind of trying to mimic that feeling of going to the record store, digging through the crates of albums you liked and sharing them with friends. This was back before computer algorithms, before streaming, before robots tried to figure out what kind of music you like. We figured we would share our favorite albums with you. And this being the month of December, I can't believe it's December already. Or maybe I can. It kind of felt like 20 years since these lockdowns began. Anyway, we thought we would look back at this crazy year, which has been called a jazz year because of all the change and adaptation and improvisation and listening we've had to do. Look back at this year through the music that came out of it. So we are going to start by picking our favorite albums of 2020. This is part one, Matt. This is part one of this conversation. We each picked 10 albums, which was almost an impossible task. And this is part one. So we're going to share 5 albums each, give you some kind of brief descriptions about them, and hopefully you'll go out and listen to them because we really enjoyed them.
Very hard to pick. Even though we're mentioning more albums than we usually do in Crate Digging, still pretty hard to just narrow it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this year, albums were crucial. They were so important. Live jazz pretty much kind of ground to a halt this year. And a lot of the ways we were able to connect with these musicians, support these musicians, was through listening to these albums, purchasing these albums. So yeah, that's the plan. Hello to everyone watching. Lavinia, hello to you watching. And as always, the Smooth Jazz family, good morning to you as well. All right, Matt, shall we just leap right in? We've waited all year.
You've told me to keep it super tight. We're going to keep it super tight, and we got it ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm buzzing, excited. Let's do it.
That's the plan with us, but we have a way of just rambling on. It's what we do.
Yeah. You got to keep it short. Yeah, keep it short.
That's right. And by the way, out there listening, everyone listening, Joyce, who's just turning in, hello to you, Joyce. We want to know about your favorite albums of the year in the comments section. Let us know. We'll be keeping a close eye. We love getting recommendations from viewers. So, all right, Matt, let's go ahead and jump into it. First on the list for you, what is it?
All right, so it's a Sun Ra Orchestra. Swirling. All right, keep it short. This is the first studio album in 20 years. It's an inspired tribute to the master Sun Ra and a revisitation of music from the ensemble's famed repertoire, featuring some of their most celebrated pieces, sometimes blending them together. The big band arrangements are great, and they're signed by Marshall Allen, who's a legend in his own right, and he's 96 years old. Wow, he's still making great music. Make no mistake about it. This is truly swirling music. It's the perfect word to define it. Rooted in jazz tradition, but also complete with lots of great experimentation, proto-electronica, tonal tunings, and so on. And the characteristic space age motifs. Welcome to the future.
Very futuristic. If you love Sun Ra, you're going to love this album. I loved it too. It is, a lot of times when people think Sun Ra, they think, oh, this is going to be way out there, atonal, arrhythmic, all that stuff. This one had some groove, swinging. some swing to settle into for sure. So yeah, this was a great album. All right, I'm going to attempt to pull up my first on the list one here, but it is from band leader Maria Schneider. There it is. So this one is called Data Lords. This is her latest. This grew out of, in a way, some of her collaborations with the late David Bowie, and grew out of some projects she had been formulating back in 2017. Anybody who has followed Maria Schneider knows, in addition to being a brilliant band leader, she's also one of the brightest minds in terms of the economy of music, and especially how streaming music and digital music has kind of stripped artists of their rights. So a while ago, she launched a campaign in which she kind of took to task these major data lords, Google, YouTube, Facebook. She's testified in Congress about how they impact artists' earnings. And this is kind of her artistic statement about this whole endeavor. It is interesting. The album is broken down into two parts, kind of the tech side and the natural side, as you can kind of see by the album cover here, in which a leaf is split in two, the motherboard, the chip on one side and a leaf on the other. And this music is incredibly powerful. It's searching, it's profound. A lot of interesting conceits in there. She builds one song around a rhythm of Morse code because her father used to be a ham radio enthusiast. And it's kind of a musical statement about how these data lords, these major tech powers, are kind of stealing our attention, commodifying it, and removing us from nature. And of course, music being one of the great natural pleasures. So it's a really kind of profound listen, in addition to being beautiful. Oh, and guitar heads too. If you're into guitar, you're going to love this album. Ben Monder is on it, and Maria Schneider features him beautifully. So that's first for my list. Maria Schneider, Data Lords.
All right, Data Lords.
Data Lords.
My turn.
Go ahead, Matt. Hot potato, passing to you.
All right, folks. My second pick is the new album, the latest album by Tigran Hamasyan, a visionary pianist, band leader, and so on. And the album is called The Call Within. I almost forgot the title of the album for a second. But this is an album that is rich in textures, and influences range from celestial choirs to the energy of thrash metal, from ambient music to, of course, Armenian folk music, which is a central element in the music of Hamasyan. There are so many elements that make up the sound of his music, in fact. And they all come together compellingly in this new album. Definitely these contrasts create a tension that push the narrative of each individual piece and album as a whole forward, sometimes cinematically. In fact, it's no surprise that one of the standout tracks of this album is called Our Film, which I think directly sort of describes the relationship that a listener has to, in regards to the music, which is not too unlike when it's a music as visionary as that is presented in this album, that between a spectator and a film. So second pick, definitely recommend it. The Call Within.
All right. Yeah. Tigran is a prodigious talent, a lot of energy. I love this album as well. Nice pick there, Matt. By the way, good morning to everyone watching. Colelia Jennings, hello to you. And Art, hello. By the way, if you're watching this and you know someone who may want to learn about some great albums of 2020 or can suggest some great albums, feel free to click the share button. We want to make this a party. I will move on to my second pick here, if I can pull it up. This one was just a straight ahead swinger. You know me, Matt. I love Great American Songbook. I love melody. I love swing. And this album absolutely hit the target in all of these cases. It is the latest by Benny Benack III. It's called A Lot of Living to Do. And of course, A Lot of Living to Do, that great song from Bye Bye Birdie, is the title track. And he puts an absolutely swinging spin on it. It's rare these days to see. He's, in addition to being a trumpeter, as you can see on the album cover, he's also a vocalist, kind of in the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, Mel Torme vein. And it's rare, I think, these days to find a vocalist who is also an instrumentalist. This album features Christian McBride on a few tunes, and he kind of is liberal with the Great American Songbook. He even includes some covers of songs that were featured in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So shout out to Mr. Rogers, who coincidentally was a great lover of jazz and one of the first people to feature Wynton Marsalis on TV. So Benny clearly knows his jazz legacy, and this was a great album. If you're just if you want to swing, if you want melody, if you want good song, compositions, this is the album for you. Check it out. Benny Benack III, A Lot of Living to Do. All right, Matt. And we got some recommendations already from Lavinia. An instant favorite of mine that I just listened to for the first time yesterday is Dreaming of Trains by Ken Navarro. Yeah. Oh, Ken is great. Very cool.
To make a note of that.
Make a note of that.
So
I love it.
Moving
Thanks,
on.
Lavinia.
Thank you, Lavinia. So third pick. This is great. It's the only collaboration between Tony Allen, one of the architects of Afrobeat, and the father of South African jazz, Hugh Masekela. Wow, this one is truly special. Rejoice, it's called. Recorded in 2010 in London. So but never completed until last year. World Circuit's producer Nick Gold put the finishing touches on the project, which actually had been discussed by the musicians, but they never got around to doing because of conflict in schedules. These, we know how these things go. But and really, this is all I should say about I have to say about the album, because we're talking about two legends, and so. And we're also talking about two legends who represent different styles of blends of genres between the African styles and the Western styles and the jazz idiom and so on. So what results is really a great meeting of approaches to this music. It's beautiful, inspiring, groovy, joyful music that actually becomes all the more meaningful now that sadly both musicians have passed away. Masakela, I believe, passed away in 2018, and then sadly Alan too passed away earlier this year. I believe it was in April, so it would have been a month after the actual release of Rejoice. So great album, and that's my third pick.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to move on to my third pick. Came out in July, and it is by let me see if I can pull up the album cover here. There it is. Another just awesome vocalist. That would be Somi. This was a live album. I don't know. I kind of had a predilection for live albums this year because maybe I was craving live music. So This is by the vocalist Somi and the Frankfurt Radio Big Band. It's called Holy Room, live at the Alter Oper, which is the German old opera, I guess. And yeah, Somi, I've been following for a while now. She just strikes that balance between, the kind of classic jazz vocals that I love and another huge musical passion of mine, that being like neo soul and world music. So she, of course, kind of is reminiscent of that Ella, Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday thing, but she also ties in the Erykah Badu, the Jill Scott, and if that's your bag, as it is mine, you're going to love this album. She's accompanied, of course, by the great Frankfurt Radio Big Band. And they just bring to life these compositions that really blend world music with a little bit of neo-funk, Afrobeat, and of course, jazz. You can feel the energy, you can feel the spirit in this room, and I think that was important for 2020. So this one certainly made my list. Somi, live at the Alter Opera, Holy Room. Loved it.
Excellent. So moving on for me, I believe this is my fourth. No, I've lost count. Oh yeah, it is the fourth. So my fourth pick is Luciana Souza's new album, Storytellers. Well, Souza is definitely one of Brazil's greatest music artists of today. There's no doubt about it. And while I was familiar more, I suppose, with her more intimate recordings, especially her duos albums that I'm absolutely obsessed with, they really get me through some difficult times sometimes, and it's amazing music. Listening to her celebration of Brazilian song and poetry in this album was a different experience, and a great one, of course, because also it features her alongside Vince Mendoza, and we talked about the Frankfurt Big Band earlier. This is the WDR Big Band, also from Germany, from Cologne, and it was just amazing. Also because Mendoza's arrangements are wonderfully expressive and never overbearing, which can be the challenge in trying not to, for these arrangements not to be overbearing when it comes to a project like this. Certainly, this was not the case here. They're wonderful and wonderfully aligned with Souza's own art form, which we all know and love.
Absolutely. I love Luciana Souza. I love what she can do with a concept album. I especially loved her album about the interpreting the poetry of Pablo Neruda. So this was a fantastic album as well. We'll move along to my next pick, my number 4. That would be the latest from pianist Christian Sands. Came out on Mack Avenue. It is called Be Water. Christian Sands is just a wonderfully versatile pianist. For this album, he took inspiration. He drew inspiration from this famous statement by Bruce Lee. Be water, my friends. Water can flow or it can crash. It can fit into the vessel that contains it. And this album is indeed very, very fluid. There is some straight ahead jazz on there. There's a cover of Solar on there. But the original compositions, I think, on this album are what really shine. Again, there's just a sense of fluidity, of never settling, of constant progression. It's a really cool listen. It's got Marcus Strickland on this album, Clarence Penn on drums, Marvin Sewell on guitar, Steve Davis on trombone, Sean Jones makes an appearance on on trumpet as well. And Yasushi Nakamura plays the bass. It's a great album, super tight trio, and includes even some audio clips of the late, great Bruce Lee espousing this philosophy of be water, my friends.
Yeah, it's a great album. I love that album too. Great pick. All right,
Thanks,
so we
Matt.
come to the final album of for this video, because
Part one. That's right.
Part one. We got to say part one. So we have all the time in the world to kind of just think about it a little more, and maybe mention other albums that we missed out on for this video. There's
maybe feature some
more
that we hear in the comments here.
We'll please do.
In part two. So again, if you're watching live, if you're watching in rerun, go ahead and let us know what your favorite album is, and we'll go through it for part two.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to the recommendations. But for now, I've got to end my run of picks with one that I've already had many chances to sing the praises of in previous videos. But I felt I had to mention, because this is the first part where we highlight albums that were some of our favorites from this year, from 2020. And it's, of course, Ella Fitzgerald's Berlin Lost Tapes. Well, of course, this is a full live set of Ella Fitzgerald goodness in Berlin with a trio from 1962. And what more can I say, really, except that the best thing about this album, and I've said this before, is that there's a raw quality to it. And you really do get the impression of being among the crowd if you close your eyes because of that. I mean, it's just, she's doing her thing on stage, and she's absolutely wonderful. One of a kind, the First Lady of Song, definitely. The fact that we're still getting long delayed releases of this type of material is also a wonderful opportunity for me to say, and this is partly the reason why I included this album in this video, to highlight the importance of art and music preservation at large. We've been getting great reissues this year, because although we do try to feature the new music in these videos, it's important to say that we've also been getting some really great releases from archives, never before released, but also new versions of classics. And it's great because it really preserves the tradition of the language and the evolution of jazz music, which we all love, of course, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this.
That's right. Yeah, this was definitely an important document. I love Ella, and to see the live side of her is just incredible. Reveals a whole new side of Ella Fitzgerald. So great pick to end. Again, part one of the best albums of 2020. We will be returning next week with part two, so stay tuned. My final pick of the night is going to be, Blue Note has a long tradition of super groups. You think of New Direction, you think of the Blue Note 7. And this is their latest. It is Artemis. This is their self-titled release. Artemis. This group formed back in 2017. They had an amazing show at the Newport Jazz Festival, and they said to themselves, we should record something. And that's exactly what they did. Check out this super group, Matt. Rennie Rosenese on piano, Anat Cohen on woodwinds, Melissa Aldana on tenor sax, Ingrid Jensen on trumpet, Noriko Ueda on bass, Allison Miller on drums, and Cecile McLaurin Salvant on vocals. I mean, that's just a lot of star power in one group. And the album, as you might expect, is excellent. I mean, all these songs, they feel new, they feel inspired, and yet at the same time, they kind of trade in grooves, in rhythms, and of course, that feels so comfortable. Listening to this album, it's kind of the new and familiar feel. I just felt so good to listen to this album. They do a wonderful cover of the Sidewinder. Lee Morgan's The Sidewinder on there, which is one of my favorite compositions. And of course, transform it in a way that, like I say, makes it feel fresh, but still retains that soul, that undeniable soul of the original. The group Artemis is named after a goddess of the hunt, and the title track, called The Goddess of the Hunt, rather, the track The Goddess of the Hunt, is a real power statement, and like I say, this is a super group by any definition of the word. I pray that we can hear more from this group, and to see them live one day, eventually, when all this is behind us, would be something else. So had to include it. This was a great album. Cannot recommend it enough. Artemis, their Blue Note debut. Their debut as a group.
Yeah. Wonderful stuff. I love that album as well. Great pick. And it's been fun.
Absolutely. It is kind of fun going through kind of our favorite albums of the year. Again, it's been an interesting year for jazz, and artists have risen to the occasion by offering us this great music. That's why it's so impossible to narrow this down to just 10. I mean, we could do
Yeah.
100, 300, 1,000 greatest albums of the year because artists have really been the way we've gotten through this, a lot of us. So,
And you know what else it is, Brian? It's like, there's probably some music out there that was released this year that we haven't even listened to yet. Even though
yes.
like we constantly have to listen to new music, there's definitely some stuff out there that we look forward to discovering in 2021 or any other year that was released this year.
We've all been a little preoccupied with life. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we'll be rediscovering, in the year ahead, but we've gotten plenty of recommendations. Joyce listened a lot to, I know we see over the manner, but she's got a lot of recommendations. Dan Tepfer, who's been doing a lot of interesting things with musical technology. The Emmett Cohen's new album is awesome. Nicole Zuriaitis. Great recommendations here, Joyce. A long list. So this was fun. We're looking forward to doing part 2 again next Thursday. Hey, while I have us here, Matt, we should mention that our December issue, our Jazz in Cinema issue, has just been mailed to subscribers. So if you are a subscriber, you can expect this thing in your mailbox very, very soon. If you're a digital subscriber, you can access it right now. You can access it right now on jazzes.com. I love this little image on the cover here of the camera inside the guy's head. But this is a really cool issue. We talk to jazz musicians about their favorite movies. We talk to documentary filmmakers about documentaries about jazz. We recommend some jazz documentaries. We recommend some jazz soundtracks. We talk about Duke Ellington and his legacy on the silver screen. Not to mention reviews, interviews, jazz news, all the stuff you come to expect from an issue of Jazz's magazine. Again, this one is being mailed out to subscribers now, but you don't have to wait. If you have a digital subscription, go ahead and access it online, jazzes.com. And if you don't, sign up now. It's only 99 cents for 3 months of unlimited digital access. So, Matt, I know you're our resident movie buff. You've probably already tucked into this album. I was really proud of it.
Yeah, I gotta say, it just so happens that today marks the 90th birthday of Jean-Luc Godard, the great French new wave filmmaker, and he's used lots of great jazz music in his films. In fact, I believe ECM has got lots of stuff dedicated to him, which you might want to check out. So happy birthday, Jean-Luc Godard, as well. He might be watching.
The perfect occasion, Jean-Luc Godard.
What better way to celebrate your birthday than watching a live stream on Jazz's YouTube? Come on.
That's right. Well, hey, man, Matt, this has been a pleasure. Again, I'll see you next week for part 2. And then later in the month, we're, of course, going to be celebrating our favorite jazz holiday albums. Because to me, it's not the holiday season until you hear that the Vince Guaraldi,
exactly.
That's what really rings in the season for me.
Definitely.
All right, Matt. Again, people watching, thank you for watching. Please follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the notification bell so that you know when we're going live. And yes, if you're watching it in rerun, let us know your favorite albums. We will talk about them next episode because that's the point of Crate Digging, to share these great albums with the jazz community. Matt, thanks as always, man.
Bye-bye.
So long, everybody.
Ciao.